Hello everybody and welcome to Tiger Tales, a place you'll find stories and fanfictions written and read to you by a host, me, Ty Tiger. Today we're diving back into the Diaries of William Cranston. Now let me explain. The Diaries of William Cranston is a storyline which acts as a prequel and an explanation series to William Cranston, a character I made who has multiversal godlike abilities. He's something called a mystery, which is something that are in all my storylines, and he names himself William Cranston after Billy Cranston, and he is one of the reasons why so many events happen in my Power Rangers storylines, such as Power Rangers Future Foundation, Power Rangers Magnificent Megaforce, and Power Rangers Cyberforce V2 on the Tiger Tales YouTube channel. So, the Diaries of William Cranston is kind of a prequel-ish, and in this chapter we're going to find out exactly how he came to be on choosing Power Rangers Future Foundation. So let's dive in, because this one's a big one. With the Diaries of William Cranston, Entry 4, The Foundation and Future of Universe 113. I sat there, waiting for the universe to scream at me. I scanned a few of the universes. There were a few that were so-called normal and followed the same quota as the Prime Universe. Zordon makes the first 5 Rangers. A 6th Ranger was made by Rita Repulsa, a damn idiot who tried to play supervillain with clay toys. Then the green turned to good. Then the green turned to white. Rangers' powers were exchanged. Powers change. They adventure into space. They exceed the time barrier. They entrust in powers of gigantic animals. They manage to pull swords out of stones. They get chosen by energems and dino gems. They get significantly altered for the greater good. Then they even succeed in saving worlds gone to hell by machines and viruses. I found a few universes that piqued my interest. That's when I found Universe 113, a unique universe. It is built in the circle formation, not layered in a stack or in a line like most other universes. This one I can only describe as a yin and a yang. One half of the universe was centered and followed the same rules as the Prime Power Rangers universe. All the same teams, same rangers, etc., etc. But the other side, however, was mixed and matched. There was war, pain. Magic and technology were at war with each other. The ranger teams had to split up. And when they did this, they kind of divided themselves. The two sides of the universes blended together nicely, making it so some people had doppelgangers because of how the world molded into the same space. I found that some scientists managed to find a way to go through the veil that separated the two alternating sides of the universe. They started experimenting on this, so I made a few notes to keep in mind. I walked over to my table and picked up Finster 5. The Finster from my vessel's home universe was a good friend, and when the universe was destroyed, I had downloaded his consciousness to this machine. I walked over to the table and picked up Finster 5 and strapped it onto my wrist, and I downloaded the information I needed. I then opened the portal and walked through it, and I entered Universe 113. I instantly noticed some key differences, and I made a note of a few of them. Finster! Please take note of these comments. Adam Park has opened a dojo before starting in the SPA, something Prime Adam never did. There's also the child conceived by Kira and Trent. Also, some other children that the Rangers have had, such as Lucas in the year 3004. Also, there are monuments and landscapes that never existed in the Prime universe, such as the Power Ranger Museum. Please log this into the Yang side of the universe, I stated.
Yes, sir. All comments have been noted. Anything else?
Finster 5 asked me. Just be on standby, I demanded. Then I found somewhere to sit and meditate. I scanned the entire universe, and something was happening in the yin side. So, I teleported to the closest breach. There were several of them scattered across the world. They were like cracks almost in the divide. I walked up to one. It was invisible to any naked natural eye, but if you weren't linked to the morphing grid, you'd have no idea you were standing in front of one. I don't even know if you'd access it. But to those who did have access to the morphing grid, such as myself, you could see the purple crack in the divide. I activated my mystery powers and phased through it, just to make sure I wasn't detected. I now stood in the Yin universe. Things were different here. There was more nature, magic. Technology advancements were increased by 3 times over, but there were only some huge cities dotted across the world. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I could feel the war, the hatred. The Power Rangers were not keen on each other. They faded in and out of their usual team versus monster routine, and instead they joined in with the war as well. The cities made Rangers military, whilst magic folk made them protectors. I found this rather intriguing. I made more notes. Then I noticed a little laboratory, single-handedly trying to make the perfect champion, the champion to save the whole universe. Both sides. I could feel the energies coming off the scientists, and they came from both the yin and the yang sides. Working together, they used the forest to hide it. I found myself closer to the laboratory. I made myself invisible to everyone, and I walked around. There, I found the scientists fusing test subjects with the DNA of not only the Ranger villains, but the Power Rangers themselves. I found them trying to make champions, using those fueled with negativity, but also blessed with positivity. They're trying to make the perfect team. I stood there in understanding their mission was very similar to my own. I decided this was the universe I wanted to make my champions in. I looked into the future and saw what went wrong. They tried to make the perfect villain by combining that of all the Rangers that tried to rule the world. He was named Lucicon. They placed him in this laboratory, and they planned on adding all the Ranger powers to him after they made him the perfect villain. But the laboratory fell before he could do so. He then would use his new monstrous forms, he had forms of all the main supervillains, to steal the Ranger powers, whether that was stealing the source of the powers themselves or kidnapping the Rangers. I needed to intervene here. I had to make an equal balance, as he was the big bad. I needed to make champions, so I needed to make an equal balance, so I used my mystery powers to make a monstrous army, extremely strong. And I made them link to Lucicon, but this was no ordinary small army. No, I made them love him as the monster he was. After the experiment fell, I had not yet decided their names, but I made him a wife, a child, and a monster that he would deem a brother. I then set things into motion and let them run their course. I was not yet ready to introduce the universe to new power sets, but due to the differences on both sides of the universe and the stable differences, there were changes to recycle the old Power Ranger powers. A perfect opportunity. I could not just pull new people out of thin air, but I could turn people into Rangers. That was when I met with a dilemma. I needed a way to give the new people the old powers, kind of like those of the Morphing Masters. Then it hit me. I needed a Morphing Master, but I could not just ask the Masters. That would trigger one into Sparks, of course. I cannot do that. I would lose my head. But I could make one. Not an actual master, of course, but lies could be told. I could make something like a Morphing Master and use my power in the background like a puppet master, pulling the strings. It was a grand plan. I needed a worthy candidate, though. I headed back to my lair in the land of the time and space and started drafting ideas. I scanned the energy signature of the Morphing Masters, and they were dripping with morphing grid energy. Then I remembered the issues of the green one. I had to be extra careful, but I needed someone that was connected to the morphing grid beforehand. The first idea was to use a Power Ranger. I dipped my toes into this idea. I scanned the universe 113 and found a few people who could be worthy of my air-quote Morphing Master. I decided to sleep on this. I woke up to a portal and Shinon walking out of it. "Why do you disturb me, Timekeeper?" I growled. "I need something from you. I am desperate," Shinon blurted. "What?" I asked bluntly. I climbed out of bed and my clothes formed around me. My brother is about to solidify his plan for the 6th Rangers in the Universe 19 with their ultra powers. So, when the time is right, they will be summoned. As you know, 2 of the 10 will be Halen and Cece, reincarnations of past Ultra Rangers. Now we need a slot for the 9th. And has to be someone who's labelled a ranger that Zordon mentored. That only leaves us with a couple options. Shinon explained. Zordon mentored? I asked with a raised eyebrow. Jason needs to trust his team, Shinon stated. Okay, Shinon, what do you need from me? I asked in a huff. I need to alter things for me. I cannot do it myself. I don't need Zordon questioning me right now. But I do need help. I need to alter Adam Park in Universe 19. Keep him safe and away from harm. I need him alive and ready, Shinon told me. I stood there, with a big grin on my face as my mind raced. I needed an old ranger from Universe 113. She needed a ranger to stay away and hide. I could take 113 Adam and use him and place Universe 19 Adam in his place. It was breaking the rules, but only ever so slightly. Hello, William, Shinon snapped. I left my thought bubble and focused on Shinon. Then I told her my plan. Once I was done, Shinon stood there with a small grin on her face. It might just work, she nodded. We started the plan. Shinon summoned Adam and told him that he was needed in Universe 113 and that the other Rangers were not to know. Luckily, in Universe 19, they hadn't spoken to him in a while, and to them, he was off on a big trip somewhere remote. I then pulled Adam from Universe 113 to the land without time and space and placed him under sedation. Then I placed Adam from Universe 19 in Universe 113, taking its original Adam's place. No one was none the wiser. Shinon thanked me and left my lair. Finally. I then walked up to Adam of Universe 113 and used my mystery powers to alternate him, giving him a form similar but not the same as the Morphing Masters. I made it look more like a knight than a wizard. I gave him the colour silver, as that was almost unheard of, but I made it a dark silver, and then I let him rest. I'd need him soon enough. I then headed back to Universe 113 and started picking my champions. I had to be careful here. Of course, I had to work with my rules of a champion choosing and the laws of the universe, so I knew that Rangers would at some point start disappearing, as Luscon would abduct them. I needed to give the Rangers emotional struggles, so in the sky I floated and I pushed my subconscious around the yang side of the universe, and I found my new Adam was settling in quite nicely. But what intrigued me the most was his apprentice, a young boy who Adam took under his wing and taught him how to fight and entered him into martial art tournaments. His name was Dante Securis. He would make a good ranger. I decided to give him Adam's Black Mighty Morphin Power Ranger powers. He had a good connection with Adam. Then I picked the obvious one, the daughter of Kira Ford. Her father was Trent, and they ended their relationship due to, well, both of them delving into their careers, leaving the teen Chloe to her own accord. After the events of the legendary battle, they kept their dino gems safe at home so Chloe could easily access them, and of course, being the child of a ranger already, made it easy. So I decided to make her my yellow Dino Thunder Ranger, an easy choice. Then I entered the 3000s era of time, and I saw the Time Force Rangers. The ex-mutant Nadira and the Blue Ranger Lucas had a son called Luca, a rebellious team who wanted to make a name for himself. Of course, he was my choice of the Blue Time Force Ranger powers. I then needed to think outside the box. I needed Rangers who had connections, but not as deep. I needed some team members not to be emotional wrecks. My attention then was brought to the Animarium, a floating island that housed the Wild Zords. There was Princess Sheila. She once again fell into a coma-like state, but beforehand she had picked a warrior to look after her, a new guard by the name of Leo, a bright young man, slightly out of society, so he was slightly awkward, but he had a connection to the Zords, and he was a great pick for the Red Wild Force Ranger powers. I then found the museum. I was drawn to it. It seemed intriguing. There was a girl arguing with her peers as the museum tour guide got information wrong. She was younger than the rest of the team that I had built, but she had knowledge. Her mother was ill, her home life wasn't exactly grand, the team would benefit from the so-called adult issues, and her optimism and ranger knowledge would be very team building, I'd say. So, As she gazed upon the in-space power morpher, I decided to give her the powers of the in-space Pink Ranger. I then noticed something else. The Ultra Rangers were never made. I checked on their students, and they never left Angel Grove, which means the Cyberforce Rangers were never the Newtman kids, but a different team. I always admired them. I saw them in graves. They had all died, they had all perished, turned out to be the hand of Lucicon's brother, the monster I created. They all sat there in their graves, whilst the only other family member alive was Xander, who spent his time recovering from losing his arm. Angel Groves was gone. He lost his family, his town, and everything. I understood his pain. Then I decided I wanted him to be the one of my champions. I need to give him a good one, though, a powerful one. Universe 19 Xander trained under Zack and the other Ultra Rangers, including the famous Tommy Oliver, which gave me the idea of the Master Morpher. I smiled to myself. Having that on our team would be grand, so I gave him the Master Morpher, which obviously gave him Tommy's ability to access the 5 powers that Tommy donned previously: the green and white Mighty Morphin, the red Turbo and Zeo, and the black Dino Thunder. I floated there, ready to start the adventure of the Yang universe. There were more Rangers I wanted to make, but they could wait for now. I then phased into the Yin half of the universe. I instantly spotted 3 people. There were doppelgangers. Luca and Dante being 2 of them. Luca was a soldier from the cities, and Dante was a scoundrel, nothing but a street rat. And the other one was CJ, who was a daughter to Calvin and Haley, the Yellow and White and Interstitial Rangers. In the Yang universe, she was nothing but a friend. In this universe, she was a rebel fighting for the magic side of the world. I decided to make her the White and Interstitial Ranger. She was raised in the cities and seemed to want complete peace. And, of course, she was dating Luca, who would make a perfect ranger once again. I decided not to give Dante another power set because I wanted to test something on him. He intrigued me. So I decided to give Luca the Quantum Ranger powers. I decided to keep his power set into the same team, but of course a different ranger would make sense. It would work perfectly. I had then to keep in mind that the rangers had to follow the same suit of the universe, so magic will of course fight technology. I had the one ranger in equal balance, being the White Ninja Steel Ranger, being an associate to both the city and the magic. So, of course, Luca being my one in the technology, I had to blend in something here to make it even. I found a man who was taught by Sky, the newly made SPD Red Ranger, and he was sent to present day to help out, so I decided that he would be the SPD Green Ranger. Then, for the magic side, I had found the son of Nick, the Mystic Force Red Ranger, who found the Mystic Village after he went on a journey of self-finding, much like his father did. So obviously I gave him his father's powers, and he was my Mystic Force Red Ranger. Then there's a boy called Connor, who intrigued me so. He was somehow linked to the Zeo Rangers, and I gave him the Zeo Blue Power Ranger powers. I decided to leave the Yin universe for now. The Yang universe seemed to be normal, so it was easier to focus there. Then I figured out that the Rangers actually stopped existing. The war didn't start properly till the old Rangers started disappearing. It seemed as if their quarrelling only really happened when the Rangers were fighting monsters, but then when Rangers started disappearing, then Rangers started getting aggressive. I still needed someone to make monsters and give Rangers a solid goal for bonding together, so they would fight even though they were arguing. That is when I noticed the leader of the main city was the human form of Lucicon. Turned out Lucicon also had a doppelganger. The Yang side turned into this monstrous behemoth. The Yin side, however, stayed human, but he did have the monstrous consciousness deep in his mind, so I used my mystery powers to alter his mind to let the evil thoughts of Lucicon seep into his human brain. He would start acting out. I do not know why. The Yin universe, like I said before, was a tricky place. The world separated due to Ranger issues of technology and magic, and of course, eventually they would live in harmony. Lucicon would reunite with his human side, and both sides of the universe would bond together and become one. The veil would break, and all the Ranger teams in this universe would, of course, save the day. But for now, I had to tread lightly. I headed back to the land of that time and space and kept my notes and prepared for the universe's dawn of a new era. I then made a holographic screen with all the details I'd noticed. I sat down at my workbench and started crafting chess pieces. I made the Yang pieces for now, Lucicon's black piece and my Ranger's white pieces. I made the base of the Ranger's chess pieces, their colours. I then set up the chessboard and I placed the chess pieces all in order, and once everything was set, I then walked up to my so-called silver morphing master. "It is time, my good sir," I said to him, without letting my grin slip. I then sat there and waited, as my plan was in motion. And there you have it, guys, another entry into the diary of William Cranston. This is a big deal because this is the start of him starting up my Power Ranger stories on Tiger Tales. This is, of course, a production of the Three Ranger Bros, which include Cosplay Dude 637 with his 4 places you can listen to stories. 3 podcasts include Power Rangers Universe 19, which of course got mentioned in this storyline. We've got Sailor Moon E and Cosplay Time with 637, which I also have another storyline at called The Misfits. You might want to go check that out. He's also got a YouTube channel called Nostalgia Time, which all 4 places he uploads different stories. They're all fantastic. Make sure you go check them out. Then the third member is Mark, the Red Cornish Ranger, with his podcast Nerds Through Comics, where he adapts comic books into audio dramas, so you don't have to read the comic books, you can just listen to the awesome audio drama. He uploads his own stories, but he's also association with me, so he uploads some of my stuff as well if he's voice acted in them. Then, of course, we are associated as Zero to Hero. Zero to Hero is a podcast with Bulk and Skull and Podcasting, Billy and Jin just entertain us with their hilarities and their great joy, so make sure to find them out as well. Of course, subscribe to Tiger Tales. The first place I started uploading stories and fan fictions, and of course all the stories there are in the third person perspective. Don't forget to check out this channel. I've got plenty of other stories here. Subscribe to it if you haven't already, and I shall see you guys really soon.